I'm back. Remember, we're reading Henry Huggins, and this is what has happened to his guppies. Goodness, Henry, his mother said, pretty soon you won't be able to walk in here. If you keep all your guppies, said his father, by the end of the year, you'll have over 1,000,000 fish in your bedroom. Golly, said Henry, 1,000,000 fish in my bedroom. Wouldn't that be something to tell the kids at school? Henry was glad when summer vacation started. It took him so long to feed his fish that he no longer had time to play with the other children on Klickitat Street. He spent all his allowance on fish food, snails, and plants for his jars. He slept with his window shut if he thought the night was going to be cold. He wasn't going to have his fish getting sick if he could help it. All day long, the boys and girls in the neighborhood rang the doorbell and asked to see Henry's fish. Finally, his mother said, Henry, this can't go on. You must get rid of some of those fish. You'll have to give them to your friends. Henry liked each fish so much that he couldn't decide which one he liked best. They were all so lively, swimming around in their fruit jars. Henry didn't see how he could part with any of them, but now that he was in the third row of jars around his room, he decided to try. He started asking his friends in the neighborhood if they would like to have some fish. Scooter didn't think he had time to take care of fish. He delivered the shopping news 2 days a week. Mary Jane said her mother wouldn't let her have any fish. Mary Jane's mother was very particular. Robert said he would rather come over and look at Henry's fish than take care of guppies of his own. Finally, Beezus said she would take one fish. Beezus's real name was Beatrice, but her little sister Ramona called her Beezus, and now everyone else did too. Beezus and Ramona already had a cat, 3 white rats, and a turtle, so one fish wouldn't make much difference. It took Henry a long time to decide which fish. Then one morning, Mrs. Huggins came home from the supermarket with 3 lugs of apricots in the back seat of the car. When Henry helped her carry them into the house, she said, Henry, run down to the basement and bring up about 20-quart jars. These, excuse me, apricots are so ripe, I want to start canning them right away. Henry went down to the basement. He did not come back up with 20-quart jars. Can you hold on a minute? I need to get a drink. Sorry about that. Okay. Henry went down to the basement. He did not come back with 20-quart jars. He came back with 4. These are all I could find, Mommy said. Oh dear, and one of them has a crack. Mrs. Huggins looked at the 3 lugs of apricots. Then she looked at Henry. Henry, she said, and he knew from the way she said it, she meant whatever she was going to say. Go to your room and bring me 17-quart jars, and don't bring me any jars with guppies in them either. Yes, Mom, said Henry in a meek voice. He went into his room and looked at the jars of guppies. He guessed he did have too many fish, but they were such nice fish. He got down on his hands and knees to look at his pets. Henry, his mother called, I'm starting to pit the apricots. You have to hurry. Okay. Henry took his net and started catching the smallest guppies. The only thing he could do was to move them in with the other fish. He hated to do it because the fish book said they shouldn't be crowded. When the guppies were moved, he carried the jars into the kitchen and poured the water down the sink. I'm sorry, Henry, his mother said, but after all, I did tell you some time ago that you couldn't go on putting guppies in fruit jars. I know, Mom. I guess I'll have to think of something else. It took Henry the rest of the morning to feed his fish. He had to put the tiniest pinch of the finest fish food into each jar. He could hear Robert and Beezus playing cowboy in the vacant lot. Ribsy trotted into his room, watched him a few minutes, and then went outdoors. Henry began to wish he was outdoors too, but he couldn't let his little fish go hungry. Late that afternoon, Mrs. Huggins drove downtown to pick up Henry's father after work. When they returned, Henry saw his father carrying more lugs of apricots into the kitchen. He had a feeling he knew what was coming next. It came. Henry, his mother said, I'm afraid I'll have to ask you for some more fruit jars. Henry sighed. I guess I'll have to double them up some more. He started to go to his room and then turned back. Say, Mom, are you going to can anything besides apricots this year? Yes, tomatoes and pears. And I thought we might go out to Mount Hood and pick huckleberries. You like huckleberry pie during the winter, don't you? Henry certainly did like huckleberry pie. He liked it any time of the year. He went to his room and moved more of his guppies. Tomatoes, pears, and huckleberries. He could see that his mother would need all her fruit jars before the summer was over. That would leave him his original bowl and the gallon pickle jar. Hey, Mommy yelled, "Are you going to make dill pickles too?" Yes, Henry. There went the pickle jar. By the end of the summer, Henry would have to move the hundreds of fish he had now, and goodness knows how many more, back into the bowl. There would be so many fish there wouldn't be room for any water. That settled it. Henry decided he would have to get rid of all his guppies. He hated to do it, but if he kept even two, he would soon be right back where he was now. It would be nice to have time to play outdoors again. Henry made up his mind to take every one of his fish back to the Lucky Dog pet shop. Maybe Mr. Pennycuff could have another sale. Henry was chasing a guppy with the net when his father came into the room. He told his father what he planned to do. "I sure hate to do it," he mourned, "but I can't keep a million guppies in my bedroom." He looked sorrowfully at his fish. "I know, Henry. I hate to see the fish go too, but they're getting out of hand. I'll tell you what to do. Catch all the guppies and put them into the pickle jar. It won't hurt them to be crowded for a little while. Right after supper, I'll run you down to the pet shop in the car." Henry sadly packed up his fish, and after supper he and his father and Ribsy got into the car and drove to the pet shop. Ribsy liked to ride in the car. "I brought you a lot of guppies," Henry said to Mr. Pennycuff. "I hope you can use them." "Use them!" exclaimed Mr. Pennycuff. "I certainly can. I haven't had a guppy in the store since the sale. Let's see them." While Henry unwrapped his pickle jar, his father looked at the tanks of tropical fish along the wall. "I should say you do have a lot of guppies," said Mr. Pennycuff. "Nice, healthy ones, too. You must have taken good care of them." He held the jar up to the light and looked at it closely. It seethed with gray guppies, rainbow guppies, and baby guppies of all sizes, swimming round and round. Let's see. Well, Mr. Pennycuff just continued to stare at the fish. Henry couldn't understand why he was muttering to himself that way. He'd given Mr. Pennycuff the guppies, and now he wished he would return the pickle jar so he could go. "Well, now," said Mr. Pennycuff, "I guess these fish are worth about $7. I can't give it to you in money, but you can pick out $7 worth of anything in the store you want." $7? Henry was astounded. $7 worth of anything in the pet shop? He was rich. He'd been so busy thinking about getting rid of the guppies that it had not occurred to him they might be worth something to Mr. Pennycuff. "Hey, Dad, did you hear that? $7, Henry shouted. "I certainly did. You better start looking around." "Take anything you want, Sonny. Dog collars, kittens, birdseed, anything." Henry tried to decide what he would like. Ribsy had a collar and a leash and a dish, so he didn't need anything. He looked at the kittens. The sign read, "Kittens, $1 each." They were cute, but Henry decided he didn't want $7 worth of kittens. Ribsy would chase them. "You don't have any skunks on sale for $7?" he asked hopefully. "No, I haven't had any skunks for a long time." "I'm glad to hear that," said Mr. Huggins. Henry looked at the tropical fish. Then he looked all around the store and came back to the tropical fish again. He stopped to watch a little catfish busily digging in the sand. Suddenly, Henry knew that the only thing in the store he really wanted was more fish. There he is looking at all the fish. "Could I keep a catfish in my fishbowl?" he asked Mr. Pennycuff. "No, Sonny, they have to be kept in warm water. They need an electric heater and a thermostat in the water to keep the water the right temperature." He held up two long glass tubes. One looked as if it was filled with sand, and the other with wires. "See, this is what I mean. They fit into the corners of an aquarium like this and keep the water warm all the time." He fitted them into the corner of a little tank on a table. "How much does that cost?" "The tank is $3, and the heater and thermostat come to 4. That makes $7. Henry was disappointed. "I wouldn't have any money left for a catfish, and the only thing I really want is more fish." "You know, Henry, I'd hoped you would say that," answered his father. "I hated to see those guppies go as much as you did. If you buy the tank and heater and thermostat, I'll buy the fish." "Gee, Dad, that's swell. Let's get a little catfish." Then Henry thought of something. "Do catfish have as many babies as guppies?" he asked Mr. Pennycuff. "Oh my, no. Catfish rarely have babies when they're kept in tanks. They mostly have them when they live outdoors in ponds and rivers." "Swell," said Henry. "That's the kind of fish we want. Won't Mom be surprised?" Okay, that's the end of that chapter. I'll do some more tomorrow. Bye-bye.